So we're live on YouTube, huh? Does that mean you're going to record it as well?
Yep. We are now live on YouTube.
Well, that's about as famous as most of us will ever get.
So Jane, you might as well get us started.
Okay. Do we have any new first-time members today? Any visitors? No, probably not. So I'll go over the news. Then we'll have our President's Challenge. We'll have show and tell with Peter Chow and Roger Grill. We'll show those PSA showcase photos. We'll do tips and hints, which is Ken Warning. And then we'll go into our program, which is various techniques of processing a photo. And we have quite a group that's contributed to that. Did you get all those contributions in, Jeff, so that you're handling it completely, or are individual? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So for news, the WACO competition is obviously closed. They're doing the pre-judging now and coming up with the finalists, and the finalists will be live for us to see via Zoom on Saturday starting at 11:30. Jeff put a link in the chat window, and you probably also got a link via email. A reminder about the digital forum meetings. The next one is scheduled for Saturday, November 28th at between 10, it starts at 10, ends at noon. I don't know if Jeff's determined a topic yet for that.
Not yet. We're playing around with that yet. So
a reminder that the WACO seminar is open for buying your tickets. It is on March 6th at 9 a.m. It will be a webinar and it's $25. Do you want to talk about it at all, Ken or Jeff?
You're muted, Ken.
You're muted, yeah, I got on mute. Okay. It's Brian Hansel. He's a photographer in northern Minnesota on the North Shore. He is going to talk about composition. And then he is going to talk on the hot spots of the North Shore of Minnesota. And he is going to show us a picture and then give us a little bit of education about how he took the picture and so forth. So it should be a good photo. I mean, some of us have been up there. It's one of our favorite places to go to, and I've attended a workshop from Brian, and this fall he's been doing a couple webinars. I attended those, and he does a pretty good job of it. So we're looking forward to that. We think it'll be a good morning program for us. Jeff, did you want to add anything?
Nope. I think the link was in the last newsletter, and the registration opens up on Saturday. So 9 till noon, approximately, and $25.
So it'll be very affordable. Should be an interesting morning. So I encourage you to sign up and get it on your calendar.
With Zoom, we can handle a fairly large group, Jane, too. So,
yeah.
That's a big plus. We're hoping some of our camera clubs that maybe don't normally attend our in-live seminars will be able to attend this one too.
That's a terrible view here. A reminder that our favorite slideshows images for that slideshow we show in December are due by Sunday, November 22nd at 5 p.m. So I've gotten one member's photos so far. So please send them to me. Put, Menomonee Falls Camera Club in the subject line. so it doesn't get missed with other emails. And we need volunteers now for our future meetings for the show and tell. So do we have anybody who wants to volunteer now for December? Unmute yourself and volunteer.
Brian will volunteer.
That's Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have another person?
Jane, I'll jump in and do it.
Okay, we've got Joe. And then we need for December a theme for our President's Challenge that we show online and that Ellen puts in the newsletter, a few of our images that we send to her and to me. So does anybody have suggestions for December? I think, Roger, you have one that you sent to me was a different perspective?
Right. A different perspective, a different view, a different unexpected view of something.
Okay, does anybody have something else? How about you, Paul? You always have good suggestions.
Not at the moment. Can't think of
Not
anything.
at the moment.
If I
Ken
think
Bowman
then-
had a suggestion.
Okay,
How about yard animals that you see in your yard or something like that? Birds, animals, any live wildlife in your yard or around the house?
well, that might be good. It might stimulate us to look out our windows and get out especially in this next week. I think that unusual perspective or different perspective is, intriguing, but it might be difficult to get much in. So let's do the animals around our environment. Something in your yard. I know I saw on Wisconsin Wildlife that somebody saw a bull elk near Holy Hill. So maybe that elk will come to your backyard.
Can we do something like backyard wildlife safari?
It doesn't, we don't need that long of a title.
Okay,
You
just
could,
backyard wildlife.
yeah,
Okay.
squirrels, rabbits, birds.
We've got
When
some
are-
dead ones in the house.
When would these be?
Ellen needs those. Do you have a calendar, Ellen, to look at a due date for sending them for?
Yeah, yes. When is our next meeting? It's December 2nd? No, December 1st. And I would have to get the newsletter out on holy cow, time flies when you're having fun. I would have to get the newsletter out by the 24th is usually what I do. So yeah, somewhere around the 18th or 19th, which is not that far away.
Okay. We'll make it the 18th.
I can't even go.
I've got some, already. So good topic for me.
Okay, the 18th.
How
Excellent.
many images?
I think if you just send a couple, that will be sufficient. I'd like to get something from a lot of people, but we don't need, you already have to send like up to 8 images for the favorites slideshow. So I don't want to overload you and having to send things. So just a few for President's Challenge. Send them both to Ellen and myself, and Ellen will use some in print, and we'll show what you send to me at our meeting. Well, we'll move on now, and I'll try to share my screen. And we'll look at the President's Challenge fall photos. We got a good turnout for fall photos. People sent a lot of images. Some people put their names on, but I think that you'll see the name at the top of the screen. So if I can get to it, we'll show them. So this is Brian and Chris. Another one from Chris. Chris again.
Wow.
Don. Jeff Ewig. Jeff Ewig. Jesse. Jim.
Wow.
Jim. Jim again. Jody. Joe. And Joe. Ken Bowman. Jeff Klug. And Jeff Klug again. Jeff Klug. Patrick Lynch. Roger. Sid. And I think that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And so that was a really good turnout. I enjoyed seeing all of them and getting them, and hopefully I didn't miss
I'm
any
sorry.
if you sent them to me.
Did I see Joby Brown's in there?
Pardon?
Did Joby Brown's chrysanthemums? Did I see that in there? I'm sorry.
You did.
I might have just missed it. I'm sorry.
Yep,
Okay.
you did.
But really a nice selection of photos.
So now we have show and tell, and we have Peter Chow and Roger Grill. Which one of you wants to go first?
I could go first.
Okay, share your screen and show us what you got.
Okay, is my screen showing?
Yes, it is. You're good.
Okay. So you can see the turn now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Call from Walgreens.
Okay, this spring, the alewives die off each spring. Now, I thought it was in June, but I just looked at my metadata, and I see that it was actually May 13th that I took this picture. Last year, I got a bunch of pictures of pelicans that had come to take advantage of the alewife die-off. They did not show up this year. Terns showed up instead, and they would fly over the Port Washington Harbor by the power plant outlet. And as a yes, by the as the alewives would get turned up, I found that if I watched in the water, I could see where an alewife would come up near the surface, and the circling terns would only take a few seconds to see that. And swoop down to pick up the alewife. And so I'd watch for the alewife and basically start the motor drive, and in about 4 or 5 seconds, a tern had come down and get it. And here's another shot, one coming in for the alewife. And here one was catching it in its beak and pulling it up out of the water. Now this one, the tern swooped down, and the fish ended up actually going over its back. You can see it right here. This one, when he came down and got the fish, he actually stabbed it. I don't think they normally do that, but he's got it on its beak. And I've got another shot here where he's starting to pull up and fly away. And another one leaving the scene with its prize. Now, the other thing that I did this spring was I got Helicon Focus, which is a focus stacking tool. And I started to experiment with flowers from out of the garden. And these pictures, I set up a little studio set up in my garage. And every so many days, I'd go out and see what new flowers were coming up, and take a number of pictures at different focusing distances. And these are mostly something like 8 to 15 pictures stacked on top of each other. Forget-me-nots, grape hyacinths. They're extremely difficult to get the color correct on them. A group of tulips. So I've been playing around with different distances, different compositions, different lighting. One day it was raining when I was working in the garage. This tulip was actually getting kind of old and didn't look that great in color, but in black and white, it looks kind of nice. And this one too really did look ugly in color, but the texture turned out nice. And I believe this is my last one. Yes. So that's what I've got to show.
Very good. Thanks, Roger.
Yep, thank you, Roger.
You're welcome.
Yep, I enjoyed those black and white ones. I like that texture, and you said you work in your garage, so do you have a little setup that you use?
I've changed things around a little bit. That I've got a old vanity. It's a little higher than normal. That I'll put a vase on with my flowers, and I've got a metal bar that I put up in the rafters that I hang a black cloth on for the background. And what I've been doing is I've been taking my LED shop lights, detach one side of them so that they hang down, and one on either side. And that's my primary lighting. And then I'll put in a flashlight or whatever to do spotlighting and stuff.
Well, it's working for you. It's
Yep.
working. Yep.
Cheap setup too.
Leave those cars outside.
Yep.
So Peter Chow, you're next.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the Neowise comet, and this was taken at the Harrington Beach State Park, which is 30 miles north of Milwaukee, near Belgium. And so this was in July, either the 12th or the 23rd, depending on, I think this is the 12th, and then the 23rd I went back to do some stacking of photos. So here you have, it's sunset more or less. There's a radio tower here, and then the comet over here. And then we have some astronomers that bring their own telescopes and stuff like that. Lately I've been bringing my camera. It's too much to set up my telescope. So I haven't done that in a year or so, a year and a half, maybe. I just bring my camera, but one of these days maybe in the summer, I'll set up my telescope. So I got about 6 or 7 pictures, not a whole lot, but as the evening progresses, you see a little bit better. These are what are they? These are reduced, of course, but this is a 4-second picture at 12,000 ISO, and the f-stop is 7.1. And what else? That's about it, really. So I think it's how many seconds? 4 seconds. Some of them later on will have 8 seconds, but they'll be at 12,000 ISO. Which isn't too bad for, this is a Nikon Z6 with F to Z adapter, and then the 24-120 lens. You see, it's just some astronomer here is setting up the telescope. I took some of these pictures at different vantage points. This little streak here is probably a satellite, but so it was a nice summer evening. This was an 8-second one, I think. Yep. In fact, I think he just opened his back hatch there because you can see a little bit of the hatch there, and so these are all single shots, long, 4 to 8 seconds, long exposure. The zoom lens was out at 120 millimeters. And I believe that's right. Yep, and it's 12,000 ISO. Now this is a stacked photo of the comet. I did some cropping, and I use a program called Sequitur, which I'll put in the window there. Sequitur is a Windows program that you can get. It's free. It's basically SB in front of the equator. So that's the way to remember it. And it's, you just download it and run it. So it's a pretty good program. I use it. I don't use Lightroom or anything like that. I don't have that. I just, these other images that I did previously were done with DxO Photo Lab. So these photos here are DxO Photo Lab. What the heck was that? Oh. Anyways, so what I did with the stacking of images was I take a bunch of them, and you know it. Let's go back. Here we have some object that's traveling across the sky. Anyway, so I take all these images and I stack them. These are Nikon RAW files, and the secretary will handle the RAW files. I think both Canon and Nikon. So that's a nice thing about the stacking software. So so this cropping here is, I mean, the picture was much wider. It's probably this wide, and it had some vignetting. So I cropped the edges off. There may be some vignetting down here and in the top, but it's probably hard to see. I don't know. This is probably a stack of, I don't know, maybe 12 images, possibly. You see the tail, and then the other, you know, one's an ion tail, one's the flow tail. I think the ion tail is the small one, but so the sun's got to be, so this is the opposite of the sun. So this is, yeah. So anyways, this is what I have for taking night pictures. What are these? These are, the stack of images are 8,000 ISO at either f1.7 or f4. Either 8 seconds or 13 seconds at 120 millimeters. So in the stack, well, I mean, this, I guess you see some motion. I don't know if that's camera motion or actually it's 8 seconds or 13 seconds. My camera, I put it on a gimbal, which sits on a workbench. And it's a portable workbench that I take out to the field. And I set up, and then I put the gimbal on top of the workbench and mount the camera. So then I use a cable release, shutter release, to take pictures. So fairly easy setup. And so that's what I have.
Great. That's real interesting. Thank you, Peter.
Sure. Any questions?
Yes, I've got 2 questions for you. Where exactly at Harrington Beach State Park do you actually set up? Where do those telescope people go?
They go in the parking lot, in the actual, you know, hardtop.
Okay, okay.
And that's in the same parking lot as the observatory.
Okay.
I don't know if you know where the observatory is.
I haven't been there in a while, at least in the park.
Yeah, but so we don't normally set up in the grass. We usually set up in the parking lot.
Okay.
And, could be 6 people there, could be a dozen people there. And so I'm on an email list.
Did they let you look through the telescope to see the comet closer? Did they get a good view of it with their equipment?
That was the time of COVID. So
Yeah, nobody let you get close.
I didn't want to venture. I mean, they could have stepped away from the telescope, and I don't know if I brought a mask that day. But anyway, this is back in July, so
Yeah.
still, yeah, I mean, when this stuff is over, well,
Thank you for showing that software. I'll look for it and see how it works.
yeah, it's primarily for night photography. I don't know if you can stack, you know, things like flowers or anything like that. I'm not sure. I mean, it was designed for night photography, but I've not played with it to see if it works with other objects. Because there are some things in the software that you can mask out by hand, and well, I think it's really meant for astronomy. So
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really good, Peter, at taking noise out of the photos. So when you do Milky Ways, it's really a good suggestion to take 10, 15 photos at 10 seconds to run through that software to clean up the noise.
yeah, I've done that with Milky Ways too. So usually when I go up there, it's Milky Ways, except for this event.
Okay, I guess we'll move on. Thank you. Reminder that next month we'll have Brian Latimus and Joe Higdon. But now, Jeff, you are up with the images for the PSA showcase that we'll be submitting.
Okay. All right, so I don't have the names here because of, so I don't remember who this one was. Ken, do you?
Yeah, that was Jeff Ewig's picture, and that
Okay,
one
that's,
was actually the best black and white in the print competition. And that's Jesse's Buchholz.
now, this one may end up being a problem. We did not realize that PSA has some strict rules, and everything has to be the maker's own photo. I'm waiting for a clarification on that rule. So, Jesse, this is yours, right?
Yes, it
I
is.
believe. Yeah.
Yes.
You bought the texture, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we may end up having to change this out.
Okay.
Because according to PSA's morals clause, you have to have made all your own stuff. So you need to make your own textures for PSA competition. So I'm checking
Okay.
it and seeing. So we may be contacting you real quick to maybe get a replacement or something.
By how soon?
Well, we should know in the next day or so.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if I caught it in time or not. We didn't find out about this till our Sunday meeting and didn't realize that for PSA competitions, everything has to be made by you. So, including the textures, we believe.
Okay. Well, just
So-
let me know.
Yep. And this is John Wiley's.
Jeff,
Will he have to take his signature off of that?
Yeah, I took the signature off already. I
Ken
believe
Bowman?
Ken Bowman, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That's
I
Jane
think
Hurst.
that's Jane Hurst. And this is Ian's. And Roger Krill. So those are the 7 images that are going in. I think that's going to stay. I'm hoping that they're not going to care about the textured image. So we'll see. I haven't heard back from her. It's been a day or two. So, but those are the 7 images. We'll be judging this competition December, like we normally do. What I'll do is I'm going to send out the score sheets to everybody, and then we'll go through it's about 100 images, and you can mark up your score sheets and either scan them and send them back to me, or just record them electronically and email it back to me. And then I can send them all to the person in charge.
Jeff, is it
So-
possible that we do a poll on the numbers?
No, they need individual score sheets from each person.
Okay.
So we'll email out the score sheet ahead of time so that you have it, and you can either scan it, or if you want, you can even mail it back to me as a piece of paper. So it's a little trickier this year because normally I can just collect them at the meeting, but this time you'll have to email them to me. But so this will probably take a little longer doing it online like this, but it shouldn't be too bad since you all can just write down your scores.
This is Peter. You might be able to create a editable PDF file.
Yeah, I probably could do something like that. I'll have to see what they send me, and we'll figure something out. So, okay.
You're
You're
not
muted,
muted.
Jane.
You're still muted, Jane.
So that's December. So in December, we'll have the slideshow and we'll have
Right.
that to do?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we'll do a round table or something else, depending how much time we have, since unless we send pizzas out to everybody.
I'm going to say, are we going to get pizzas delivered to each people's houses?
We'll keep Pizza Hut or somebody really busy.
Ken and I will take care of that.
Yeah.
Support your local business.
Oh.
Tips and hints are next. So Ken, I guess that's you, Lightroom Mobile.
Okay. All right. I'm going to follow my notes here. And first of all, I want to thank Ellen for including it in the Menomonee Falls newsletter. I had sent it to her to ask her to attach it to the newsletter, and she was nice enough to actually put it in there. So everybody actually has a copy. If you look at it, it's page 4 or 5 in the newsletter. So Lightroom Mobile is a free.
The links worked, Ken, when I tried them in the newsletter. So hopefully everybody can just click on them to get to the various links you placed in there as well.
Okay, good. Lightroom Mobile is a free Adobe software program that is included with the monthly subscription service to Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. What this does, it allows you to sync photos from Lightroom Classic on your computer to Lightroom Mobile, which can be on your phone, or Lightroom on the web, and it lets you edit, organize, and share collections of photos anywhere you take your mobile device. Now, I don't use all the features in Lightroom Mobile. I prefer to do all my editing on my desktop computer. You can actually edit photos on your phone or tablet, or by going to the website for that. Now, if you look on the left-hand side here, you see my collection folders. And you'll see some of them here, like I've got one called Lightroom Mobile Collections. It looks like a little box. So that is actually a collection set. And if I open it, it then has all the collection folders that I have And if you look on the left side and see that little double arrow, that means it's synced to my Lightroom Mobile. There is a, in order to get started, you need to go up on the right here to this cloud. And when you click on it, it tells me that it's synced. I can pause the syncing. Initially, you have to go there to get it started syncing photos for you. And they give you 20 gigabytes of free space. I've got 660 photos synced on there right now. It's only using up a small amount of the space because if you go from Lightroom Classic to the mobile device, I believe it uses your smart previews and not actually the photos themselves. So it doesn't really take up any space so I mean, at one time I had 2,000 photos that were synced. Okay. Within the Lightroom Mobile, there is for your phone, there is a Lightroom camera that many people could find very useful. There's a lot of options for it. But what I'd like to do is kind of now, for collections, one of the reasons I like collections, when I started Lightroom a long time ago, you can see here on my files that I've started with a date system. So I've got all my photos organized by date. But what I did is I moved the photos that I wanted into various collections. So what you're looking at, I keep all my Lightroom Mobile collections in this one collection set. And if you look a little bit further down, you'll see that I have, like for photography, I've got photos organized by animals, birds, buildings, flowers, lighthouses, people, sports, transportation, which is cars, airplanes, travel, which is a lot of Michigan travel in here. And I break it down into specific places that I commonly go to. So virtually every photo that I really want to have organized, I have them all organized in collections. So what do I use Lightroom Mobile for? I use it to show photos that I have selected on my phone to be able to show to my friends. I also use Lightroom Mobile to send a link of my photos to my friends so that they can see the photos on their devices. And then the third tool that I use Lightroom Mobile to set up a portfolio website of my photos, which is another free program with a subscription service. So I've already talked about the little cloud icon up on top, which enables you to sync photos. For tonight, I've got a little Menomonee Falls collection here of some photos. And if you look on the left-hand side here, it's kind of small. You might not be able to see it, but there's just a little box there. There's not a double arrow. That means that that file has not been synced yet. So it enables to sync it to my mobile device. All that I do is click on that box. It now indicated it's syncing it. And if I go up to the cloud here, it tells me that, well, maybe it's done syncing already because I did a test and synced it earlier. And then what you do is you basically download the Lightroom mobile app on your device. So it's on my phone. And what I'm going to do now is show you my phone. So I'm going to go into the screen sharing this again, do a new share, and I'm going to share my iPhone. Let's get this thing going here. I have to go to screen mirroring. Okay, so that's my phone. Here's my light. You can see the LR for Lightroom. And I'm going to bring it horizontally. So these are all the albums that I've got shared on Lightroom Mobile. I've got Arizona, I've got Smokies, Bryce, Colorado, Eagles. So you can see here, I've got quite a few different albums of photos. And on my phone, I'm gonna push my finger on the Arizona photo. If I push on it again, it takes off all the editing features. And so now this is how I would share my photos with my friend. I can pass them the phone and they can just flip through each individual photo. And then when I'm done, I can go back and select another album. And if I bring up, this is the Menomonee Falls one that I had just synced. This was actually the one that Ian and John and I did on our Menomonee Falls field trip downtown. One of my trips to Michigan. This is that ski jump I was telling Clint about up in near Black River. Another photo there. This one I just wanted to put in here. I went up to do the aurora, and you could see from the cloud situation there that I didn't see the aurora. That's as good as it got. What was kind of interesting were these people showed up in my photo at 9 o'clock at night. This is a 4 or 8 second photo. They came here with black lights so they could look at the rocks to see if they could find any glowing rocks. And then they collect them and they take them with them. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, let's get back to my phone. The sunset there. A couple places I went to up north. So that's basically how you can share on your, so I'm on my phone right now showing you the photos that I had synced from Lightroom Classic. If you look on the right-hand side here, you'll see different types of editing things. I can actually go here and, oh, I gotta use my phone. I can actually share this with people. I can create a link so that I can just copy that link and email it to people, and then they can look at the same photos. So that is the other feature that I like about Lightroom Mobile. It's a good way to share your images. And I'm gonna, I don't know what it's, oh, I didn't really want to go into the sharing, but I'm going to get out of here now and go to new share and go back to my screen. So that's how I use Lightroom Mobile. Now, if I go into this one and I can do the sharing and the links right from within Lightroom Classic. So if I right click on Menomonee Falls, I can go to Lightroom Links. And I can make this collection public, which means I can share it. I can also go to the Lightroom website for my photos. And this is different from the portfolio, but if I click on View on Web, should take me to my website and not to, or to where my photos are. And now I've got the same albums that I had in the Lightroom Classic and the same ones that are in my phone. I can bring up my, for example, my Eagle photos that we take when we go to LeClaire. And actually, you can see there's editing buttons here. You can actually edit your photos on the website too. See what happens when I do that. Okay. You can see here under Arizona, it's telling me that it's already shared. I've got this people icon here, which gives me the ability to share from the website. So I can share from my Lightroom Classic, I can share from the website, and I can share from the phone or tablet if I wanted to. So I'm going to close the website, go back here, and just to show you again, if I wanted to share my Eagle photos, I just have to make the collection public. And if I go back, go to Lightroom links for that, I can view on the web again. And this time it's just showing the Eagle file because that's the one I shared. And then I also have this ability to copy a public link. So if I click that, you'll see where it's saying public link sent to clipboard. I can now go into my email and paste that link into my email and send it to someone, and then they can view the photos on their computer, or they can view it on their mobile device. So I find it a pretty useful tool. The other thing that you can do when you send these photos to people is they can actually make, well, maybe let me try this once. Go back to my view on web again. Let's see here. Okay, so this has got a little caption thing here. I can look at the photos in full large view, but if I click this caption button, I can actually put so if I send it to my friend and he wants to send me a comment here, they can write a comment, post a comment. It'll show up here. But if I go into Lightroom Classic, I'm having to move this tray of our pictures around here. So I can go to Lightroom Classic, and here Jeff left me a comment. Needs more color. I think he wants it more saturated. So it can be kind of a useful tool to be able to share these photos, to be able to have people comment on them. The other thing he could have done, he could have clicked a little heart that would have made it a favorite. Let me just look at my notes here to see what else I wanted to show. Well, this might be quicker than what I had wanted. In the notes that Ellen put on her thing, and here's some links that I put in there. I've got a couple Adobe links to the to how to use Lightroom Mobile. And I have a link to how to use the camera in Lightroom Mobile and how to edit photos on Lightroom Mobile. Like I said, I don't usually do the editing on Lightroom Mobile. I prefer to do all my editing on the computer at home. And then I had also mentioned that you can make a portfolio in with Lightroom. And this is another free program. And what I did is I used all of my Lightroom mobile collections to create this website. So can't see it right offhand, but here's that Arizona photo collections that I had. And the same photos are here. You can, you can make a comment about them and tell where, like here I put where I went on some of my trips to Arizona. You can make it large, and you can go back and forth in your photos. Now this the tray with all your photos on is making it a little confusing for me, but and then you can, I've got an about page. I've got a contact page where you can leave me a message. And in my, when you go over the photos, it tells you, I put in there where I took these photos. And like I said, you can click on them and it brings up all of the images, and then you can make them larger or smaller. So that's the Lightroom portfolio program. And again, if you have the Lightroom Photoshop subscription service, there's no charge for that. And I believe you can make 4 or 5 different portfolios. So probably these ones I have mainly for nature photos. I may do one with kind of people type images. So I'm gonna minimize this. Well, let's bring the screen back up with your, well, I'm gonna try to bring this, well, I think I lost you guys. Let me stop sharing. All right, does anybody have any questions on Lightroom Mobile?
The one question I had is if you're going to share with people, they have to open up an Adobe account?
That is correct, Jane. So if they don't have one, they don't have to have any of the software or buy anything from Adobe. They just have to create an Adobe account.
Okay.
Ken, if you're sharing a collection with somebody, are they able to download the photos? And if so, do they get full size?
Well, that's a good question. Jeff and I have been going back and forth on this because when he set up a couple of things, they were able to be downloaded, and at the time, mine were protected, and now all of a sudden mine aren't protected anymore. So you actually can, you know, like iPhone, for example, they've got that little square with an arrow, and if you click on that, you can send it as an email, send it as a text. So you do have those capabilities, and so you got to be a little concerned about who you send it to. Now on my portfolio site, one of the options that you can do on that is to set it so that nobody can right click on your photos. So that is what I did on the portfolio site, is I've got it set up so that if somebody tries to right click, they won't be able to do anything.
Okay, thank you.
Ken?
Yeah.
It's Sid. I may have changed a setting or something. When I save my photos, I'll save it as a TIFF or a JPEG or whatever. But I only see on my screen in Lightroom the raw file. So obviously I can't sync the raw file to my mobile. So I find myself re-importing the TIFF or JPEG back into Lightroom. Do you know what the solution is on that? Because I used to see it there.
Where was the photo taken? Was the photo, was it sent from your Lightroom Classic photo? Did you send it from there, or did you send, or was it a camera image that
It's a camera image. Yeah, it's a camera image, and
from your
so
phone?
I'll edit it on the computer in Windows and then save it. And then, but I only still see the raw file there. I don't see the TIFF file.
You know, I never verified how Lightroom actually uses the photos from our Lightroom Classic for mobile or for the mobile website. But I'm thinking is that they might be taking a smart preview from your Lightroom Classic, and that's what they're basing the photo that you see on your mobile phone and on your website. It's not the actual photo itself that they're. So like when I went to my that Lightroom mobile website, I don't have any actual photo unless you're actually using the Lightroom for the regular, the mobile Lightroom instead of the Classic. But if you're using the Classic Lightroom,
right?
They don't actually. Well, your photo resides on your phone too, so. If you took the photo from your phone, maybe it's looking at your photo from your phone instead of the preview from the Lightroom.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And that's one of the reasons I don't, I don't take that many Lightroom or photos from my phone anyways. Well, what I usually do is if I do take something that I want to somehow use and take the Lightroom, I just email it to me and then import it into Lightroom that way, rather than try to sync it with the Lightroom mobile. Because I've got, if I go to the store and I see something I might want to buy it sometime, I take a photo of it. I've got all these photos on my phone of all kinds of crazy things, and I don't want all of those to end up syncing with my Lightroom Classic, and so I don't turn on the syncing for the phone photos. Anybody else?
Your portfolio, can anyone see it, or do they also need to have an account with Adobe?
You might need to make an account. Now, I did give in the bottom of my little talk here that Ellen put on the chapter newsletter, I do have a link to that portfolio that I have if anybody wants to look at it. And if you already have anything that you purchased from Lightroom, you probably already have a Lightroom account. And if you don't have a Lightroom account, if you don't use any of their products, all you have to do is create a account. There's no charge for that, and then you'll be able to view any photos that I shared or my portfolio.
Your portfolio tool, does that have a limit size tool on what size you can have?
I don't believe, well, it's 20 gigabytes, but like I said, when it's coming out of Lightroom Classic, I think it's just using smart previews, and it's not really storing the photos on the web at all. And so it's really not taking up any space. And I had 2,000 photos in folders in Lightroom Mobile at one time. And when I started making my portfolio, I cleaned all those things up and got rid of, well, they're still in collections, but they're not being synced to Lightroom Mobile right now.
Thank you.
And that's what I like about the collections, is because you can make multiple collections of the same photo. You can add them, move them. And it doesn't affect your original photo at all.
Ken, a question for you. Do you have the service that gives you the 1 terabyte, the $9.90 whatever a month, or do you have the more expensive one where you have the 10 terabytes or 20, whatever it is?
I don't have either one of those, Jim. I just, I had the free one, which is 20 gigabytes.
It's not the free one. He has the $9.99 Photoshop and Lightroom desktop.
Yeah,
And with
that's
that,
right.
you get,
right. You're right, Jeff.
you
I
get-
get the 20 gigabytes from subscribing to the Lightroom and Photoshop services.
yeah.
Ken,
If
I
you do the
tried-
Lightroom mobile, then you get 1 terabyte of storage space, but then you don't get the Photoshop and all that other stuff. You just get the mobile stuff that's available. So the best way is to do the desktop version and Photoshop, and then you get 20 gigabytes of space for Photoshop and for Lightroom, type of Lightroom mobile.
And Ken, I was able to view your portfolio through like an incognito, a private browser that I'm not signed into Adobe or anything. So I don't think you need,
very good.
I don't think you need an Adobe account to view somebody's portfolio.
Okay, very
No.
good. Maybe it had to do with the sharing of my Lightroom albums. I know.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
had family members.
When you share your stuff, they need to be able to sign in to verify.
And I think that's because you showed the like commenting that Jeff was able to do. So obviously they'd have to know who you are and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for looking into that.
You're welcome. And like I said, I enjoy it, and it's a free way for me to share my photos with friends and family, and works out well. And it's all from Lightroom Classic. I can do everything from the desktop.
Well, thank you, Ken. Maybe I'll give it a try. Any more questions for Ken? Then I guess, Jeff, it's for you to run the various techniques.
Yep. Okay. We've got a file that we sent out to, let's see, I forget how many people total that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to 6 people. So who wants to go first and talk about how they processed it? And if you want to show how you processed it, that's fine. I've got all the final images that I can put up, but I know, Ian, you had mentioned you were going to talk about it. Roger, you had stuff you were going to talk about, right? Peter, do you have something that you were going to talk about, or you want me just to show your result? And
Just
Brian,
very short sentences.
Okay.
I can cover what I did. And just show it. I can just, mention what I did for the process too. So
sure. Go ahead, Pat. Why don't you start?
Okay. Well, let's see. Jeff sent out a JPEG. Would have been a little easier.
No,
with
I
raw
sent out
file.
a raw file.
What's that?
I sent a raw file.
Did you? I ended up with a JPEG.
I did too,
well,
but
I had a raw file.
They tell me that this is a common issue with importing a DNG now into Lightroom. I didn't know that originally either. I had the same issue. So I don't know how to fix that just yet, but it has to do with the import.
Well, that's interesting because they should be able to import a DNG as Adobe's own file.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with mine, Jeff.
Yeah,
Mine was
Jeff.
a DNG.
I didn't either.
Yeah, Jeff, mine came out as a JPEG no matter what I used to open it. Lightroom, Photoshop, Affinity, whatever. And that's why you got the image that you
Yeah.
did.
That's strange. No, okay. I don't know why. And it must have been a pretty crappy JPEG because I don't embed large JPEGs in my DNGs.
So, well, anyway, that's what I was working with.
Okay.
So what I did with it was I first brought it into DxO, which is the old Nick software. The DxO is the new upgrade of it. And I did some brilliance and warmth with it. And it ended up with the saturation around 20% and the warmth around 50. Then I like to use the detail extractor in there also. And after I was done with that, I brought it back into Lightroom to take a look at it. And I did the auto on it. And then I tweaked from the auto part of it. Is this the one that I did?
Yep, this is the one you did.
Okay. And I tweaked on the auto a little bit with the texture, the dehaze, the vibrance somewhat. And I played with the luminous a little bit on the yellow and a little saturation and the hue. And then I did a vignette, but then I brought it into Photoshop because right in the front, I felt that those swirly waves right in the front of that one rock were a little bright. So I did a little dodging on those to tone those down a little bit. And so, oh, and I also did a little bit up in the upper right corner where it was kind of yellow where the sun was coming through. And I did a little fill in there just to take away, because my eye was always going to that part there up near the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, I think it was probably up in here, right?
Right, exactly. So this is the finished one that I ended up with. And I probably could have done more with it if I would have realized it was actually a raw file. But I thought I read JPEG on Dropbox too when I looked at it.
What is the original look like?
This is the original.
Okay, okay.
Well, the JPEG didn't work out too bad.
No.
No.
Jeff,
No.
you want to show mine next? One step.
Okay, it's you, Tony? Yeah, this is Tony's. He must have got a really small JPEG. I really don't get how that worked. I've never heard about that happening before.
Yeah. This is the oiled filter in Lightroom or Photoshop. That's all I could do with it.
Interesting. Who wants to go next? And
I'll go next if you want to. That's fine. Just Jim K.
Okay. I'm just looking for you on my list here. Are you just going to talk about it, or do you want to share your screen?
I'll let you show it. I had to use a portable machine tonight, and I can't show the actual version.
There we go. That's yours.
Okay.
I'm not seeing you. Oh, I know why. I can only see half of everybody. There you are.
You can tell this is the computer I use. It's the only picture I have that you were seeing in my background that's on this computer. So there it is. So anyway, that's why it's a B behind me. What I did was I started out by using nothing more than Lightroom to try to bring up some of the features that were there in the beginning. That's my typical way of going about things. I then usually export any picture I have into On1. I find their sharpening or any photo I've ever used is best there. I don't think I've ever found a better sharpening program. And it's very versatile in that you can change the sharpening for small details, medium details, and larger details. So that's really nice. And I love they have a vignette that brings down the darker parts, but kind of leaves the lighter parts. So it doesn't just kind of give this shadow area all around it. It's much harder to see where you've done it unless you're looking between the different vignettes. So I like those. So when I'm looking at this picture, I had the same problem. I did see that first rock that you see at the very bottom as you're coming up there. That was a huge bright spot. And again, because this was a JPEG for me, I sent this then into Lightroom and I cloned the bottom part of the river around that rock and then took a clone of the brighter parts of the rocks further up and brought them back over so that I could really control how much brightness was there. And then I also speckled in the trees. It's probably hard to see if you weren't looking at a flatter version of this, but I speckled light into the back trees that you see off to the left. Then also when I was in Photoshop, I was playing around with a technique I've seen where people are lighting up certain sides of the trees. So on the trees over on the right-hand side of the bank, the ones that are going straight up and down that are sort of whitish and brown or brownish, I lit up the front sides of the trees and left the back sides darker to give them a little more depth. That's done in Photoshop. In another layer, I usually just brighten them up or I paint white over them and then use a blend mode. So when you put all those different programs together, you can get some really nice results out of this picture.
Yeah, good.
Jim,
interesting.
Did you see that you get on one's photo 2021 free with some filters and tutorials and practice files today?
I didn't know it was free today.
Oh
no, it's not free.
It's well, if you I belong to On One Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're an On One Plus member, you get it free. But otherwise, it just was brought out today, and it's $99.95 for On One Plus.
On it, and they've been running things over the last several months to try to get people to get into it again. I mean, this was 2020 version. I should tell you that I was a little upset with On One after they moved from version 2018 to 2019. It used to be that you could send a photo from Lightroom into On One, make changes, send it back. Well, if you looked at it a few days later and you went, boy, I wish I could change that, you could send it back into your On One, and all of the settings were there and you could readjust your settings. But starting on 2019 and now forward, once you make those changes and send it back into Lightroom, those changes are baked in. They don't show up again and you can't bring them back. And I've had this kind of running dialogue with On One about it and asked them several times, are they ever going to go back to the older way that used to work? They tell me they use different file types now and they can't do that anymore. That is a problem. That was much easier to re-edit something. They do have fabulous color controls and stuff that I think are the easiest for somebody to learn if you don't, like for instance, I've looked at DxO and DxO it's a little more of a learning curve. So I wish they would go back to a better style with their program, but they have not.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see that going back anymore because of the complex of the AI that they're adding to all this stuff. I didn't realize you couldn't go back and do it that way. I thought if you kept it as a Photoshop file, it still read the layers, but
it might be in Photoshop, but once you take it in and out of Lightroom, you can't.
Well, no, you can go from Lightroom if you edit as the original Photoshop file. have all your layers and get back to it. I'm not sure if that works for on one. I'd have to try it in on one. I don't work that way, so it's not a problem for me, but I'll have to try it once.
Yeah, give it a
and
try. I know
see.
Photoshop lets you keep the layers.
Yeah.
Provided you send it back and forth with the right setting. But
Right, right.
That
Jim, are you saving as a PSD?
When I saving this, or you're saying it for Photoshop?
When you're in on one and then you save it back to like Lightroom, are you saving it as a PSD?
Yes.
And the layers aren't there. Wow.
Their layers. Now remember, it's other things will still, kind of ride with it, but it has to do with again, they tell me it's their file type that they're sending back to Lightroom that no longer can keep those bits of data in there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, didn't realize that happened. I don't work that way, so it doesn't pop up for me too often. But interesting. Okay. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next, Roger.
Okay. Now, Roger, you were gonna. Do you want me to show yours here, or do you want to screen share?
You can show it there.
Okay. Let me just. Well, where the heck did yours go? I know I've got it. Peter, Pat. Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I can find it quick. Do you have it there, Roger?
I sure do.
Okay, let me stop my screen share and then why don't you show your screen? I think you can, yeah.
Let's see. Gotta find the share.
I'll have to look. I don't know why. I thought I had everybody's.
Is everybody seeing my Lightroom right now?
There it is.
Yep, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have I started to work on this and I found that the first time I had a JPEG. So when I started playing around and was having a lot of trouble, I went back to Jeff's email, and for some reason the next time I was able to get the DNG, and this is the original file. Now, here's the image that I sent Jeff, and how I processed this was I'm in Lightroom 6. I have still been too cheap to pay for the subscription. I'll probably do that in the next few months.
That idea.
I start off with almost all of my pictures to use the auto exposure and lower the highlights and add a bit of clarity and a bit of vibrance. Then I go back, I went back here and I keyed off of the white foam to set a white balance, and then I fine-tuned that. I took out some blue. Well, for this one, because it was such a challenge, I took and I set the saturation to maximum while I set the temperature and the hue. And then I went to fine-tuning the exposure, the contrast, and lighten the shadows to get a little detail in the rocks. And then I played with the tone curve, which I'll kind of show. Well, I guess let me expand this here. No, that's the wrong one. There we go. Then I played with the tone curve some more. Brought down the lights and brought up the darks and the shadows. After that, I made some graduated filters. And I did one that kind of went up the edge of the river and dealt with the brightness of the trees. And I did one almost parallel to that so that I could individually control the rocks down on this side and lighten those up a little bit. And after that, you saw I changed files here. I then took the image and I took it into Topaz Sharpen and did a little sharpening on it in order to get a little more detail in the rocks. And overall, I probably saturated it just a little bit more than normal for Jeff. So that's what I did. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Roger. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
Brian.
Okay, Brian, go ahead. Do you want me to show the image or?
Yeah, show the image, please.
Okay, just a minute. There
Okay.
you go, Brian. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I just all the different spots I have to look to make sure I'm sharing.
We've got it. We've got it.
Yeah.
First of all, when I downloaded, I got the DNG file first try, so it worked for me. I don't know why, but not for other people. But when I saw Jeff's original image, there were two things going through my mind off and on. One was, how can I do this differently? Because knowing, the folks, normally we go to those standard tools, Photoshop and Lightroom. And so that was in my mind. And so it was like, well, I could see this. I was trying to view this as more of an artistic composition in order to do something different. So I went into my toolbox of various painting programs. This is the fifth version that I came up with, which was my favorite of the five. So I looked at my toolbox of my various painting programs, and so I still had Topaz Impression, and I had Topaz Adjust. That's not really a painting program. So I went through those, first impression and then adjust. Within impression, there's a lot of different painting styles, but didn't find one that I thought was really to my satisfaction. And the more I got into it, the more I thought I wanted to go for drama, not only artistic, but drama. Tried on one when some of their filters. Dynamic contrast is one of my go-to filters, and color enhancer, but just didn't get the drama that I was after. And then I remembered Topaz Studio, which I really hadn't worked with in quite a while. And actually I had to download a copy of that to get that going. And within that, I think because I purchased Simplified Impressions, if I remember right, those were all part of Topaz Studio. And I played around in there. There's so many different artistic or so many different filters that give you that artistic look. I played with one called Painting Colorful. The one that you've got here, unfortunately, I went back to try to find it before the meeting started, and I couldn't find exactly which filter it was. Since then, when I find one I like, actually I've been using it quite a bit. Now I know to add that to my favorites. But it was some kind of a glaze. I'm trying to read my notes here. CHARMOISE glaze, something like that. I could not find it for the brief time that I was working on this. So again, when I first looked at it, I thought, how can I do something artistic? And then as I got into it more and more, played with it, then it was, how can I add some drama to it? And so this is what I ended up with.
Yeah, I think it came out neat. It's different.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to be different because I figured everybody else is just going to be, playing with Lightroom and Photoshop, and other folks can do that a lot better than I can. So.
Yeah, great. Okay. Peter, you want to go next?
Sure.
You want me to show you? This is the one you sent me.
Okay. Looks
So
better on my
unless you
monitor.
want to screen share something yourself.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
Looks better on my monitor, but that's.
Yeah. Well, it's going through a lot. Zoom does not help a picture out any. Let me.
Yeah, so I used the DNG file in DxO Photo Lab 3.3. One thing I want to make sure that this was more saturated or more greenish in color, and then I chopped off the right side because I thought the trees were kind of boring. So I still had enough detail down in the corner here to retain. So there's some stuff on the right here that wasn't all that interesting, but I used probably like a DxO, I don't know, it was type of enhancer. There's two major enhancers. I forget what they're called now, but anyways, Clearview, I think it was one of them. And as you notice here down here, this Clearview will bring out what's underneath the water. Whereas in some of these other guys' photos, they don't. It's still more blurred down here. There's some detail in this area here, and this area sort of. But I was, just playing around with it. I bought a Nick, the collection suite, and I don't know if I used this used the collection on this or not. If I did, I probably used one of the tools. But in general, the idea was to brighten this up, make it more real life as possible, cropping off the trees on the right while maintaining the detail over here. And, and also the reflection of the yellow from the trees here. So,
yeah,
that's what I did.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks. Yeah, it looks neat. Let's see. All right. Let's see. We've done that, Pat, Jim. Guess that leaves you, Ian.
All right. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. Place spotlight. And are you able to share, or you should be
Yeah, hold
able
on.
to? Okay.
All right, you should be seeing
Yep.
Lightroom right now in the original image.
Yep.
And then I'll show you my final image. That's how I finished it. And then I'll kind of flip you through what I did to it. Primarily Lightroom based changes. First thing, obviously I flipped it. That wasn't necessarily one of the first things I did. What's interesting is I don't think the history actually kept that in there. I'm not quite sure why. But I thought that it looked better coming in with the bright spot in the left, the color down the left side, and then the rock over here on the right kind of taking your eye out. So that's why I flipped it horizontally. I initially played with a lot of different crops, trying to find, usually when I take any image really, trying to figure out where my eye goes, where I want to send the viewer. And I at first kind of struggled finding that, and then I flipped it and I was able to find it a lot faster. So things that I tend to do this is kind of like my workflow in general, is I mess with the curve a little bit just to brighten it up. This one's kind of blown out in the top, so I didn't do too much of a curve change. Did your standard, drop the highlights, raise the whites. And then I usually go in and start messing with some of the calibration settings just to see like what this does. And I know through Zoom, you probably won't see these. These are pretty subtle, but I make slight adjustments just to play with the calibration. And usually you see I end up putting them right back. So I just kind of bounce back and forth, trying things, messing with the shadows because it was pretty dark in the back end, adding a little texture to the photo. And then I started playing with the crop. So I ended up moving things around, jumping all over the place. I went all the way in on the rock, but there's not much detail there. But I was kind of like intrigued by the water and everything. Back to back out. Played around, chopping off all that, the top part. But then I realized I kind of wanted that glow coming in. And then I add the vignette. I do a bunch of things to my vignette, playing with those. I mess with the vibrance and the saturation. I'll boost the vibrance by 15, drop the saturation by 5. I have like a preset for that. And then I started to get into HCLs, start playing around with things in there, did some split toning. This was a bunch of saturation changes. Again, the HCL, I'm not going to click through all these, but you can see I'm just like trying different things. Like what happens if I mess with the aqua one and really play with it by 100? Nope, don't like it. So I, put it back. But I play around in there, play more with the white, play with the highlights. One thing I don't mess with too often, unless I really feel like I need to, is the contrast slider. So I tend to control the contrast just with highlights and whites and blacks. Still playing with the crop, add some clarity, drop the dehaze. I actually wanted to give it a little more of a hazy look to it, so I dropped that. Played with the curve because I'm trying to get the whites to kind of pop a little bit more. Again, more at the dehaze playing. My blacks. There's some highlights. I think people have mentioned the highlights on here, so I did some highlight adjustments there. More cropping. And then eventually I get up here. Hold on, the computer needs to catch up. There we go. Playing with the highlights. Oh yeah. Let's see. I play with colors a lot. Oh, the color grading. That's what it was. That's what part I was looking for. So Lightroom came out with color grading instead of split toning halfway through this. So then I had to come back and try it now with the new settings. So I started playing with the color grading. You can see, I mean, that's really aqua. So I messed around with things. Still playing with the moodiness, with the clipping, going back to my highlights. I'm just kind of dialing things in, trying things. Oh, and then I started to notice, I was like, this orange part really needs to pop out more. So boosted the luminance of the orange, boosted it for the yellow. And then I actually did a radial filter somewhere in here. Oh yeah, radial filter like right in this area around the rock and everything, to kind of like play with that and make certain parts, this center section more clarity, since I dehazed everything. So I wanted to make this area kind of sharper. So that's where the radial filter came in. More vignette playing. Shadows, playing more with the crop. I played with the crop all the way up till the end. Oh wait, I did jump over this part, I think. Yeah. So here's where I boosted this orange. So this back corner, I felt like the orange needed to be boosted more. So I gave it some exposure and highlights to make it that really catch your eye and then lead you into the picture and everything. And then I did end up doing this brush stroke stuff. I ended up darkening this bottom corner here because it was a little bright just where my crop was coming in. It was distracting, so I darkened it a little. And then really one of the last things I did was I took it into Lightroom, or not Lightroom, Photoshop, and I got rid of the little leaf down here because it was driving me nuts having this little leaf down here. It just stuck out every time I looked at it. So I went in and I cloned it out, healed it out, whatever. Fill, I probably did a content aware fill is what I did. And that's how I got it.
And I walked all the way out there to put that leaf in there. So
did you really?
I
don't think so. So yeah, that's where I finished. At the end of the day, you know, kind of made the green a little bluish aqua color, got the orange going. So you kind of got that aqua teal orange color scheme going through it, with a focus kind of on this rock and a little more haze on everything else. And that's pretty much what I do with most of my photos. That's a standard walk flow for me.
Yeah.
That many steps you take for the photos?
Flowers, I probably do a lot more. But yeah, that's a standard. That's pretty standard for me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't use.
How long does it take you then? Or are these just?
I mean, I
They're
probably
just-
did this one in like 5-10 minutes, 15 at most.
So you do a lot of playing around with just different things, but they're all clicky things.
Quick. I'm just throwing sliders all the way to the right, all the way left, drag it back a little bit real quick, move on to the next one. I kind of like the workflow that I did, like let's set our curves right off the shoot. Let's drop the highlights, raise the whites. Those are like almost every photo I start that way. And then I go down to calibration, play with that real quick. That's standard. And then I just go back up to the basics and I start moving everything all over the place. The vignette is almost standard. I probably should I have a preset for that. I probably should update it because I've now done it slightly differently recently, the way I do it. So a lot of that stuff is just dump all the presets and everything on it and then just tweak from there.
Wow.
So I can do it pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I tinker with almost every slider that I can get my hand. If it's an architecture, I gotta do more because I gotta do the transform. I gotta strain everything. I like editing though, so it's okay. I like editing as much as I like taking photos, so it works out. It's a half and half for me.
Okay. I think all the transitions, all the different techniques showed differences the way people work and were interesting in their approaches to post-production.
Okay, so let me show So again, that was the image I gave everybody. Still don't know why. I thought maybe because it could have been a 32-bit image, but I looked and it's only a 16-bit. Maybe it's because it's a 16-bit image that it gave a problem for some people. I don't know.
Does
But
everybody who had an issue, are they on current Lightroom CC? This isn't like an old Lightroom problem, is it?
No, I
No,
have an old
Okay.
Lightroom and I got
Just
the
checking.
DNG.
Okay.
yeah, because when Roger said he had the old Lightroom, because I am running the latest Lightroom, so, but the DNG I thought I made compatible pretty far back. But so that's the original. Here is what I ended up. This is my final version of it. I take it, yeah, everybody can see that. And then I did one just today, which came out a little different than my original. This original, I think I spent quite a few hours on. And actually now I probably, with the color grading tools that Photoshop has, I don't want to work on this particular, well, yeah, I can on this one because it's not in my main file.
I like the leaf down there on the rock.
Yeah. I crawled down there to get that there. But with the color grading tools, what's nice is that I'd never liked the blue water that's in there. So now you can actually grade this and work on getting rid of some of that blue. And
Yeah, it's funny because I added blue.
yeah. See, for me, this whole thing, when we shot this, it was early morning and everything was warm. So the water should never been that blue. And so for me, I would have probably worked at, making it even more yellow. But I can't actually say how I did this one because I did it so long, a year and a half ago. But I can show you how I go at it with what I do today. So let me, because we still got a few minutes and this doesn't take me that long to do. So here's the raw file. I basically hit auto as my first step and let it get everything somewhat set. I then set my black point so that I don't have any blacks blown out and that the whites aren't blown out. Then I'll adjust my highlight area to bring in as much detail as I can and open up the shadow detail as much as I can. And I'll then adjust my color temperature because I want it to be fairly warm. Then I'll go down to my textures and bring it out a little bit. This one, in the beginning, I brought the clarity out and I actually did a little dehaze. I know when I did this photo originally, I was mainly working in Nik. So I actually use color effects. And this is, I think, color effects 2, if I remember right, or the second version that DxO has put out. I'm too cheap to buy their new version. And then I have a couple of steps that I do. The first one is I add brilliance and warmth. That's how I got this whole overall warm look. And I probably went about there. Then I added a filter of detail extractor to bring out all the fine details in the image. And usually that goes up about here. And sometimes I'll up the contrast. And then because this was a fall color day, but the leaves hadn't changed as much as I would like, Nick has a nice foliage filter that helps turn the green leaves a little more yellow. And that's their first setting here. And then I can turn up that so that there's more yellow than what we actually had. And that brings out the yellow all the way around. And so that's what I'd probably end up doing in Nick. Now I probably would use Luminaire to do the same stuff and add a few more things to it. Now that's just getting started, because now I start working a little more like what Ian was doing. I'll go in and use my adjustment tools, and one of the first things I saw is that the top and the right side's a little too bright for me. So I would probably use the grad filter down to about there. I don't think I would darken it quite that much, but it looks like about 1 1/4 stops. There I would actually blur out, drop the clarity so that the leaves sort of blend in together. Then I would do another one down in this corner and up to about here. But that one I would actually brighten it up to have your eye come in, since it follows the bright side. And do a little color temperature adjusting. And again, I would probably drop the clarity on this end, because it's all mainly water, a little bit of rocks, but I can bring that back if I want later. Then I would use the brush and I would go around and fix rocks that I don't like this one here is way too bright for me. So I would paint this one in and darken it down. And probably even try to do it twice just to get it really dark. And then I would also probably darken this one a little bit. And I just go through and I pick out stones that I don't like how they look and fix them up and paint them in. Then I do another one, and this one I do bigger, and I use it to draw a line up following the creek for the way I want you to follow the river a little bit. But I'm actually, even though I'm painting right now darker, I'm actually going to make that brighter so that it brings you and follows you right up the creek to this area, which hopefully then you follow the gold coming back down. Then I probably would do a little bit of a radial in here. Not quite that far. And that one I need to invert. And feather. So that I can just slightly bring in a little more detail in there. And then my final bit would be a vignette using down here at the bottom, just to darken the four corners. And that's what you can do in just a couple of quick minutes. And it's not too far off. Well, I like the way that one comes out better than some of the others. So that's how I do it. And we'll see. This one was entered, I believe I had this entered in the current Wacko competition. So we'll see how it does. But yeah, and I spent a lot more time with that one. I probably spent 15 or 20 minutes on it. I don't spend a lot of time on my images. So that's about it for that. So Jane?
Well, they were all, I think, very interesting. I think Zoom works well for showing things on Lightroom, what people do, or whatever program they're using, because I usually sat in the back and, maybe miss seeing some of the things. So I think that works very well. It's a pretty photo. Yeah. I like it. I like a lot of what everybody did.
There's all of them. Just so everybody could see everything there's a lot of interesting variety in all of them.
Yep.
So everybody has a different take to it. So that's sort of interesting.
Yeah, it is. So I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
I was going to say that as far as my photo editing goes, I find that I really do a better job when I don't get into the fine details of the photo editing until about a month after I've taken the picture. I've got a more unbiased perspective of what the image looks like to other people.
Yeah, I actually, from a trip, I don't start editing till 6 weeks after I come back from a trip. I get rid of my calls and then I do the final pick throughs after I'm back.
I always make sure that I wait at least a day to post any of my edits so I can like sleep on it and have fresh eyes, because I'll come back the next day and be like, what were you doing last night? Who edited this? Tone that down. Jeez. So yeah, I always wait a day, let it sink in, and look at it the next day.
Okay, so what do we need for next month? We need the slideshow images, 8 from everybody who wants to participate. And then we need wildlife animals that reside like in your backyard, that happen through your personal space. So those are the things we need to have for next month, and we need them. Well, the slideshow is Sunday the 22nd, I think it was. I said 5 o'clock, but Ellen needs something for the newsletter, and the others, let's make that, what did we say, the 18th, Ellen, I think?
You could probably make it up to give them an extra day on that. Okay. Oh God, my phone updated. I hate that. The Thursday, the 19th. So
okay.
So that'll get to going, maybe that extra day, that one last push.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll have the slideshow, the President's Challenge, and judging that PSA.
Yeah, chapter show, PSA Club Showcase.
Yeah, and roundtable with what's ever left for our December 1st meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, now that you've signed up for this, you're signed up for the rest of the season. You don't have to re-sign up. You'll get an email from Zoom a day and an hour before the next meeting. So that's the nice part about this webinar bit, is you sign up once and this is a recurring webinar and you'll get notices before each meeting. So You don't have to sign up anymore.
This is Peter. I got a
That's
question. What do we decide about dues, club dues? Are we going to not pay it this year, or paying it, or what?
Well, I think the
That's-
board is going to meet again in December, a little bit later, and we'll discuss it again. Because we do have ongoing expenses. You know, we have the website expenses, we have the Zoom expenses. There might be some other expenses too.
Yeah.
And I would think that we're going to be meeting Zoom until September.
Yeah, it looks like it. I just got a notice from the rec department. Right now, they'll allow us to have 19 people at a meeting in that room that we have. But we have to have a complete COVID plan approved by the Waukesha CDC before we can even meet. And a few other things put into place. And 19 people isn't enough for this group. We already have 28 people here, and we actually have 39 people signed up for this meeting. So we either have to find a larger room, and we have to put together a very comprehensive COVID plan to deal with meeting in person. So I believe we're going to be doing this at least till September next year.
Jeff, this is Tony. I have a question about Zoom.
Yeah.
If we're overseas or somebody's overseas, are they able to log into the meetings?
No.
Pardon?
Only if I allow it.
Okay, because I don't know. It's not using a phone number, is it? It's using
You can. We have one person listening in using that called in to listen.
But I'm trying to figure out,
Well,
so
yeah,
I was somewhere else.
Yeah, you can watch from anywhere. You could log in and watch from anywhere. If we had somebody interested overseas, they can certainly watch this overseas as well.
Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Sure.
Maybe in the space shuttle, space station.
That might be a little harder, but if they had internet, yeah, I guess they could.
Do we need to dress up for next month for our group shot?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're going to have to do the group shot everybody's going to need be able to have their camera turned on. So we can do a group
print
shot.
screen.
Yeah, so I can print the screen.
Or we'll have to send you a selfie of each one of us or something.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to work that hard in Photoshop putting 39 people together into a group shot.
Right.
Just do the Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
right. Take a screenshot of people at the meeting. Yes, that'll work.
It would be an
Yeah.
appropriate photo given the times.
Yeah.
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 Yep. We'll have to certainly do something like that. We'll see, how many people we have. It may be 2 screenshots because you can only get about 25, 30 on a screen. But yep. Yeah, we'll have to do that next month too.
Less work, everybody will already be identified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Makes it a little easier. So I guess that's all I have. That's the up to date. Now I'm going to inform the board about more stuff for the board meeting when we talk about it.
All right, sounds good.
It was a great camera club tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Yes,
nice.
very nice, and good night, all.
See you in a month.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
See everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see ya.
Good night.
Thank you, John.
No problem, Jane.
Yep, you do
Went
the
well.
lion's share of the work. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. I'm glad you got your camera and stuff worked out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right.
All right, take care.
Yep, you too. See ya. Thanks for coming, Carl. You still awake, Carl?